Well, welcome to my latest vlog, and you join me on the banks of a Bedfordshire club water. So I suppose I should sort of talk about why I'm here and what attracted me to this lake, and probably need to cast back a bit to the beginning of the outbreak, really, the pandemic, early spring 2020. I just finished my time on gingerbread on the Bedfordshire-Cambridgeshire border, and I've been aware of this lake for many years because it's close to my house. It's 6-7 miles away, and I remember reading in some of the Carp Fishing history books that this lake produced its first known 30-pounder in 1960, 60 years ago. So that's always interested me. You know, waters have got a bit of history to them. Obviously, it's had numerous stockings over the years. And it's something that always appealed to me, and I just decided that the time was right. It had a particularly nice common in this lake, just over around 38 to 40 pound, called Pimple. So that's what really attracted me to the lake. And I would just do a little bit here and there, the odd night or so, maybe a bit in the winter. It wouldn't be a campaign water. Generally I'll go down to the Colne Valley, Reading Way, that sort of thing, to do my weekends and that. But I'll have a water close to home that I can drop on and do the odd night, maybe a bit of winter where I can keep the bait trickling in close to home. I got the ticket once all the tackle shops had opened up and we could sort of go out locally. Back in the spring of 20, I picked up the club book. Night fishing, I think they lifted the ban on movement. We could still fish close, but it was days only. It went back to nights. I think it was in June. I came for a walk around a couple of times. I wasn't working at the time, I was unemployed. I walked around this lake a couple of times and it was just absolutely rammed full of people. It was just absolutely bonkers. Every swim had anglers on, people picnicking their kids and babies 2-3 metres away from the bivvy, dogs, kids swimming, joggers, you name it, everything that a park lake would bring. But there's still special fish in the water, so you just got to put up with all that. And, so I gave it a couple of weeks thinking, well, maybe it'll calm down a bit, you know, but yeah, no. It just got worse because everyone was on furlough, so everyone was just living on lakes, weren't they? So I came down July the 3rd on a Friday and decided, right, I'm bringing my gear. Got down in the car park in the afternoon. It was a Friday. I thought I'd just do an overnighter for now, just to get a feel, start getting a feel, do the odd night here and there. And I walked round, and I was walking around on the shallow behind me, the shallow bank, and an angler who's just wound in his rod's in swim 6, Stuart, a local angler. So we carried on walking around the perimeter of the lake and that, and we got to this bird hide to my left in the south west corner of the lake, and I can see some fishing going on out here. There was some big old patches of bubbling and fizzing going on, fish moving around. I wasn't sure if it was carp or cats. There is cats in here up to about 100 pounds. So I did actually think that it might have been a big cat or two, but the swim where I'm actually fishing right now was vacant, and the two just behind, they were the only swims left on the whole lake. So I left Stuart, left it to my motor, loaded up the barra and rushed back down here and down all the steps. It's quite a steep bank here, loads of steps, down into the swim. Just setting up, and 2 other anglers turned up, I think from Peterborough, if I remember rightly, and they set up in the last 2 swims. That was it. Lake was full, no more swims free. And literally probably an hour, 2 hours after that, another 1, 2, 3 anglers turned up and had to go home. And so I had a little lead around basically where it was fizzing up. The fish were telling me where to fish basically, so I just flick the rods out to where it's fizzing and got nice drops on both the areas. Literally just catapulted a few boilies, monster tiger nut. I just used those throughout. Probably a lot of anglers. I tried to think of a bait that the cats wouldn't have so much. If I used a fish meal bait, or a liver bait or a meat bait that they'll definitely attract the catfish. So I try to avoid them and go down the monster tiger nut route. Also maybe using tiger nuts as well, mixed in with it. And it all went quiet as it does when you cast out. And the fishing stopped for a little while, and then it did start up again later in the evening. And then eventually, obviously, I crashed out. Woke up early morning, probably about 4 o'clock, I guess. It's July the 4th, Independence Day over in the US. And there's this fish lumping around all in front of me. I was like, oh, come on. And then it must have been about 5-6 o'clock. Got my first bite on the first morning, just absolutely ripped off. And that was one to be left out in open water on a hinge. And it just, I just played it in. Didn't do too much, to be honest. Got it in quite easy. I think I got a little bit of footage as I'm netting it on the GoPro, because I'd stuck the GoPro on just to watch some of the fish showing and that, catch some of that. It was just a little common, big double common, but that was it. Off the score sheet, first night, first fish, happy days. So I slipped that one back. I didn't bother to put the rod back out because I was only going to do an overnight or a go. I said to the wife that I was just doing it, I'd be back home in the morning. But there was fish lumping around everywhere, and that was like, how long can I give it? A couple more hours maybe. And literally about an hour later, one of the other rods ripped off. And obviously playing this was different, completely different kettle of fish. I knew that I was into something a bit better. And obviously was playing really hard, deep, load of bubbling coming up as it was, hugging the bottom. And it was one of these really odd fights. I played it, as you do, hard fighting fish. Got it in towards the net after maybe a few minutes, and literally saw as it seen that net in the crystal clear water, just absolutely charged off towards the right-hand snags. Just tore off 15-20 yards, something like that. Just, if I hadn't seen it as a carp, I'd have thought it was one of the little cats. Absolutely flat rodded me, and just like that. And I nearly had it in the net, sort of thing, wallowing in that, but see the net just turn off. And slowly getting it back in, pumping it back in again. Second time, getting it towards his wallowing and that, and he's seen the net, and he's off again. Fucking hell. And I just kept playing him in, and eventually on the third time, managed to scoop it up and obviously tied a bit, so managed to get that net, and he's thinking about turning it, and I just scooped him in. He's trying to charge out and he's charging into the mesh of the net, but managed to lift it and secure him in, and it kept rocking away, and that in the net, he's still full of energy. And I just knew straight away I was one of the good ones. I should say there's 4 good mirrors in here, shall we say, that have broken the 40-pound barrier, and I know this was definitely one of them. It was July, so obviously probably none or maybe one of them would be 40, but I didn't care. It's first night, and I've got all my mat, sling and everything ready and that, and hoisted it out, got it on the mat, and I just knew straight away, it's the Leadburn mirror. Now obviously I'll come on here for pimple, but I ain't going to say no to that. You know what I mean? That is a lovely consolation prize. And there's a bit of a story to Leadburn, so for people who may know, or may even still have the old guidebooks, there's 2 little lakes behind the lake I'm at now that used to be run by leisure sport, and they were called Leadburn Road. There's 2 lakes there, just a few carp and cats in and that, but obviously they let the lease go, and no one took it over. I think the club that runs these lakes, they had a look, they got offered it, but they decided not worth it either, and it just got abandoned, just got locked up, forgotten about. And I think a couple of local lads started sort of ducking under the fence and fishing it a bit, and they moved in, I think 3 or 4 fish, and the biggest fish that was in there, it did have a different name, I can't remember what it was called now. I think it got moved in around 30 pounds, so that's what the fish is called, the Leadburn. And it was a lovely fish, and I just recognised it straight away with all the reds and browns and that, and it's quite a yellowy fish, yellow belly, halfway up the flank and that, long, scattered linear type, you know, or partial linear. Just, yeah, lovely. And I just hoisted it up, you know, for the film. Back. Yeah, I could be wrong. I think she's one of the big girls. Normally goes about 43, 44. But like I say, 37.4, first night. You can't be knocking it, can you? On a monster tiger nut, just 8 wraps out on a little hard clear spot in amongst a load of weed. God, fight was hard, really hard, really pulling. There's a lot of snags in here. There's a little bird hide to me right, and that with scaffold poles in the water and that, and she was trying to make her way for that. I'm absolutely over the freaking moon with this one. Jeez. Yes, sir. What a fish, eh? What a fish. Club water. Just up the road from me. Whoa. Let's dip it back, eh? So yeah, so once I'd returned that back, you know, off skipping into the sunset to the car park after having that fish, I decided to do the odd night here and there, but it was getting quite busy. You know, the only other chance I had, I'd been out on the shallows on the bank behind me, and I waded out up to chest height and was casting in a little rake and raking up little spots. And that's the only other chance I had. It had absolute one noter one night, and hit into it. It was on for a couple of seconds, then pop, gone. And I just assumed it was one of the cats. And that was it really. I did a couple of other overnighters dotted around the lake and that, but no real joy, to be honest. Just those two on the first night. I thought this was going to be easy, but no, it obviously showed me that no, it was, I just landed. I got in the right swim at the right time. The fish were there. Managed a couple. If I'd have stayed on maybe another round or two, maybe I'd have had a third or a fourth. Don't know, but yeah. So that was it really for that spring and summer. I then was back down Reading way and that, fishing down there. And then in the winter I decided that I was going to come back here and fish the winter on here. It didn't have a lot of winter form, but it had done the odd fish previously. I think the previous winter I don't think it did any fish at all, but there'd been otter sightings and things like that, so you just don't really know with the club water. And so I started doing a little bit, did a couple of sessions to the swim just to the right here. And I was seeing them showing midday, probably between 10 and midday. You'd see the odd show and then cruising around on top. And what Matt mentioned, it's quite a deep sand pit. It goes down to 26 foot. And I was fishing out there around 18, 20 foot. And they were just on top. It was zigs. I had to get the zigs out in the end, you know, because they were just cruising around. We're talking December 20, and they're cruising around on top. Bonkers, you know, I'm talking like half dozen, 8, 10 fish cruising around with the fins and backs and that, just in bright sunshine, really cold bright sunshine, and they were just, obviously I guess that's where the firm climb was, wherever that was the warmest bit was right at the top. So obviously I had to put the zigs out, but nothing really occurred or anything, and then I had an unfortunate incident with my car. It just decided to set itself on fire on the M1, which was rather dramatic, and that was it. I was off the road for a while, and then lockdown occurred again, so that was it. Didn't fish that winter, so a whole year had gone by, and I think I'd done 11 nights total on the lake, 2 fish and probably a lost cat. I then come back in the spring when things eased. We could do days only, and this was sort of borderline days only local water, so 6-7 miles away from home. That's localish. And I came down in it was just been flooded. The canal had burst its banks, poured into the lake. All the footpaths around were all flooded and that. And there's a good few snags around the lake, so it just didn't look appealing at all. So I decided to just have a look at their water on the same club book across the road from here, on the other side of the canal. Basically, it's got a lot of history. I didn't really know much about it, but your Fred J. Taylors, all the history guys have been mentioning a couple of books, I think, from the 60s and 70s, the lake across the road. I don't know what's in there now. I think the club book had like fish to mid-30 or something, but you're never too sure with club books. But I just thought, a day, doing a Saturday or a Sunday, for the day, getting down there first, like with a flask and a chair and a couple of rods, just getting out of the house sort of thing, that will do. And that's what I did, and I got down there, and I just sort of had a little lead around to see what was out there with the marker float, and on the third cast, the marker rod, just cast it out there. Donk, bang! Oh, that's a fish. I've hit a fish halfway down, right quick. Tied up a rig, quickly cast out to that spot, dropped it down, and then sort of my other two rods, and I'm literally just sat there. I've not even switched the Nevils on or anything, just sitting there having a look. It's only a small little lake, 2-3 acres, something like that. I don't think you've got a lot of fish either, from what I can gather, maybe 20-30 fish up to mid-30, something like that. Or that's what I knew from the book. And then literally 20 minutes later, that one where I bumped a fish just absolutely rocked off. And first night on there again on the club lake, and so I'm playing this fish and that, and it's not really doing much. And then it's gone and got me into all these snag bushes, because it was obviously the floodwater had affected that lake as well, so it got in all these bushes and all the branches are rocking around. Oh no! And I just thought, right, I'm just going to bury my rod, and I'm just going to slowly pull and just hope it comes. And I just kept doing that, just keeping the pressure up, and just a twing, snap. Ooh. And I just felt it, I literally got crack. And I'm just pulling up, and I'm just coming up, and then just suddenly this branch comes up, load of sort of half dead lily pads and that, and I'm just going, and then I can see this big grey thing behind it. Oh, that doesn't look too bad. And I just keep pulling in that, and he's just wallowing, he's just sort of waddling, rocking his head side to side behind this branch, and I've managed just to scoop the whole lot up, branch, pads, fish. I'm like, oh, that's not bad. That's not a bad fish at all. Short, chunky thing. A few little scars and marks on it. It's quite a snaggy lake. It's all sort of woodwork and trees and bushes and that. So obviously, it's got marked up over the years. I know I've sorted myself out and hoisted it up. Bloody 39 odd or whatever. Well, I thought they went at 35, happy days, taking pictures and that. And then it transpired, a couple of the local guys come down and that, and it was the big one in late, was done 42 or something, and it's been 40 regular. It hadn't been under 40 for a couple of years. It was not just my luck, but I didn't care, you know what I mean? It was just doing a day. I'd literally only done half an hour. Whew. She obviously likes living in the snags, doesn't she? All those marks on her. There you go, one battle scarred Bedfordshire biggie. Oh, yes, single hook bait, mid-Feb, just starting to warm up. I needed to get out, not been out in a couple of months, so what a result, eh? Come on, yes sir. And I've gone and caught the biggest in the lake. Bonkers, absolutely bonkers. That's how it is sometimes though, isn't it? You go to a lake and the biggest fish is your first fish, or it's the last fish. It's one or the other, isn't it? It always is. And so that was it really. I did a couple of other day sessions on there, and I came close a couple of times in margins, but the heart wasn't really in it, and then the nights opened up, so that was it. I was off back down Reading way again, to Tiddenfoot and Englefield. I did, and I kept coming down here, but I just weren't feeling it. Just I wasn't getting that vibe, and it wasn't really till probably late summer, autumn, where I started feeling it again. And I started trickling a little bit. I wasn't putting a lot in, literally just a few handfuls of just regular in the swim behind me here. Just kept trickling in bait. And I think the first 2 nights I had a cat and lost a cat. I think the cat was about 40-50, and the other one I lost in the snags. Then I had another cat. I think that was only a small one, £20 or something like that, but all first 3 nights. But I kept trickling in the bait. And then finally I had a mirror. I think it was October. It was only was it a mirror or was it a common? I'm trying to remember now. It was a little common. That was it, I think. Yeah, it was a little common. And then I just kept trickling the bait. I couldn't always get down because of work and things like that. I kept trickling the bait on a Sunday and a Wednesday. Just come down, a few catapults. That was all. Just keeping the bait going in, sort of matchman style, little and often. And then nicked another one. That was the mirror in November. 22, 23 pound. Looked as old as anything. Looked like a really old fish. Had all the sort of mucus on it and that. And to be honest, didn't really do anything. It just came in like a bream. I don't think it knew what was going on. I'm sure it's been caught a few times, but didn't seem to know. And so I was happy with that. I had a couple of fish. They're all off the same spot, the same as the leadburn. And I just kept trickling in the bait, and coming down on the odd occasion. And I think I must have got up to about 8-9 nights so far, I think now. And I came down early December on a Friday, and I actually see three fish show out here, sort of in the dark around 8-9 o'clock. And I thought, oh, happy days, that looks good. One of them showed over the my left-hand bait spot. The other two just further around in open water, maybe on someone else's bait. I thought that looked good. That was a good sign. December the 4th, and fish are showing. I had a couple of aggressive liners that night, but nothing happened. And then the toughies came in the morning and wiped out all the baits, picked up 2 of my rods a couple of times, and cleared it all out. So I just sat there waiting until dark, because I knew the fish were around. I'd seen them, added the liners, so I knew there was stuff about, and having a mooch and having a nose. Maybe the regular baiting was working, but obviously I now knew that basically if the fish didn't get on that bait that night, it would probably be gone the next day. So I knew that I probably would have to up my regularity of the bait each, maybe 3 times a week, just a little bit at night. But anyway, I stayed for a second night. Actually decided to do a weekend for a change. And so that as soon as it got sort of dark, whatever time it was, 5-6 o'clock, it was December, put a little bit of bait out, and there again, not a lot, 3-4 catapults, something like that, 20-30 baits, got the rods back out, sharpened all the hooks and everything and that, getting all nice, sticky sharp. Got those back out on the spots, same spots as usual and that, just got in the bivvy and cooked my tea and whatever, and was on the phone doing what you do and chatting to your mates and that. They just crashed out. Had a really aggressive liner on the middle rod. It was slammed up to the top, back down again. About 10-11 o'clock, I think it was, that evening. And then that was it. Just went quiet. Didn't hear. I think the wind switched round, was blowing into the bay, and it was a new moon as well, I should point out. And then 6 o'clock in the morning, still dark, obviously it's December, and the right hand rod caught the leadburn, and a couple of the others just tore off on a one noter, and they hit into it, and I was really lucky, so it just kept going and going and going. I thought, if it had gone into me right into snags out of a bit, it would have been game over, but luckily it went behind me. And it just kept going and going, because the lead had dropped off on that. It actually swirled on the surface out there, probably about 60-70 yards out there. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, that can't be a bloody cat, surely, not in freaking December. So anyway, I'm playing it in, pumping it in all the way. It got tangled around one of my lines, but only momentarily, went under it and then came back again. And managed to slip the net under, the carp. Was like, bloody hell, it's actually a carp. And I've gone and grabbed my head torch and had a look in. It's like, that's one of the 18. Now, like I say, there was pimple in here, and I'm dubious if pimple's still around, so we'll get to that. And then there's 4 mirrors. So you've got 2 that are called Sid and Rash that go 40 ounces now and again. You've got the leadburn, which has done, I think, 41, 42. And then you've got the big mirror, what a lot of people are after, what they call the Italian, which I think has gone 43 or 44 at its best. That's what I had in my net, December the 5th, and I've got the Italian in my net. Oh yes, happy days. So obviously I made sure that this mat was wet, the sling was wet but not dripping or anything. Got rid of all the drips and zeroed the scales and that, and lifted it up. zeroed it up, 46 and a quarter. Yeah, new lake record, come on, yes. I've got a special one here. One I think I'll call a Club Water Classic. Oh, absolute beauty. It's December 21. This rattled off about an hour and a half ago. I'll let it calm down. And we'll see if I can hoist her up.
That's a beauty.
No winter colours. Oh. There we go. December, 46 and a quarter pound Club Water Classic. Oh, is she a beauty or what? I've been just trickling in bait, not a lot, pound or so every few days in a swim for the last 3 weeks. Had that 23 2 weeks ago, and I've just followed it up with this one. The run was just mental. I actually thought it was a catfish. Oh yes, it's the biggie in the lake. Fish called the Italian. What a beauty, eh? Yes. Thank you. Oh. Are you ready, mate? That's a better start, isn't it? Alright, let's let me go. You're ready. Oh, look at that.
Gonna boy.
Yes! Come on! Woohoo! Really chuffed to bits for that. Absolutely cracking classic club water mirror, you know, just that's what I was on here for. It's all the history, some of the famous people who have fished here over the years and that. And I've, you know, gone and caught the biggest, and in December, absolutely just made up with that. I'm not sure if Pimple's here, to be honest. Pimple was the reason I come here, but she's not been out 4 years now. She wasn't a regular visitor to the bank, but it's had so much pressure, so many anglers, and I actually thought on one of my first walk rounds that I actually saw her. There's 4 sets of snags on my walks round that I generally will find fish in the warmer months. You've got the main big snags over on the north bank, if you like, the northwest corner. Big set of snags, but shallow water. They're not always in there, but in the summer, they're in there in the day for sure, probably at night as well at times. You've then got another set of snags on the canal bank, if you call it that, on the east bank. Swim 6 fishes to that. You wouldn't think it's that snaggy walking around, but then when you get in underneath there's all sorts of woodwork and that, you nearly always see fish in there. But it's quite tricky catching them out there. You're fishing up to the far margin basically and just locked up. And then there's another little snag under the pylon in the south-east corner, and that's where I thought I'd seen Pimple a few times. Definitely a big common, but there's a lot of double figure fish in here. I don't know, maybe 40, 50 doubles. You know, so if you've got, let's say, a couple of 14, 15 pounders and then a bigger common, and there's not that many big commons. I think there's one, maybe two around the 30 to 33 mark, and then supposedly Pimple at 38 to 40 odd. And obviously you've got a big common and 2 little mirrors. Just I thought it was Pimple, but I think on hindsight now, and I've looked at it's only on the poor phone footage and that. I think it might have been one of those 30 commons on hindsight now. And I hope maybe someone proves me wrong, but I think Pimple might have gone now. There is a lot of snags, you get all sorts of anglers and that. Maybe something happened to it and it's got tethered up, snagged up and woodwork and gone, sadly. I won't be carrying on now. Obviously I've had 2 of the nice ones, Italian, the largest in the lake. There's some lovely fish in there. The club have just gone and stocked it with 20 VS fish. So future's bright, as people say, with the old stockies and that. So I think they're going to be putting in another 20 in the winter to come as well. So yes, I think this will probably be my last session on here. Maybe see if I can nick a bonus fish or something. But otherwise, like I say, I've really enjoyed it. It's lovely fishing. Sometimes maybe not quite so much. It's Park Lake, dogs, kids, boats, you name it. Anything and everything happens on here. But in the winter time and that, it's sheltered, it's away, it's close to home. I can keep the bait regular and have a couple of fish. Playing 2 club waters, 37, 39 and a 46. Anyway, well, thanks for joining me, and I hope you've enjoyed this little vlog. Until next time.